Welcome back to the AB Scout Project. I'm Krager. This is Off Bravo, and today we got a pair of DNA upgrade kits. Since I did the other Dinobots, I went ahead and got the other one. So this one is for Sludge, the DK-36, and this one is an upgrade kit, not an upgrade kit. Anyway, this side, you get that Google Eyed Sludge again. Here's contents of the package. Google Eyes, legal, name. That's about it for the box. Let's go ahead and crack it open and see what's inside. Alright, now that we got the kit open, we've got a baggie of small parts that we're going to put in around. Like got these gray things in here that are supposed to help the wings click in better. And these are to help the joints better. We'll get to those in a little bit. That I hadn't read to in the instructions yet, but we'll get to it. And apparently I got the special box that had the gold sword in it, so that's pretty cool. Here's their regular sword with the transparent blade, like Slug had. So bring in the Slug sword so you can see that. There you go. So pretty neat. And of course you think, yeah, that'd be a pretty cool theme, but then you got the one that came with Grimlock and kind of throws it off. But anyway, so that's neat. So I got the gold and the red swords. You got the chest filler plate for Dino mode. And that's probably what the handle's for, so that this can become a shield in robot mode. Yeah, in fact, I'm just 100% sure that's what that's for. So yeah, so you put that into the filler panel, and then you can wield that as a shield. So yeah, pretty cool. We got the bug eyes for Dino mode. We'll convert to Dino mode and show that afterwards. And then the last thing in the kit is more blast effects, and I love blast effects. This is probably the best gimmick for Transformers. So this one is for Sludge. So you can take the end off there so that it will fit inside of his gun. For 5mm, and then putting this on allows for a 3mm attachment, so it'll fit inside of the Dino mode head. Stick that in there, and you can fit that. Let's put it on the screen, so you can fit that on the back in his mouth, and he can be firing out there. So yeah, pretty cool. All right, have him stand again. The other two blast effects, I'm gonna move him aside for now. The fiery one is for Grimlock, so you just stick that in there, and then the smaller one is for Slag. So pretty neat. Glad we got a little bit of an addition there. We'll move them back out of the way. So yeah, first thing is that we're going to go ahead and put in these joints that are falling out. So these guys, now we'll start with these guys. So it's like we come back here. Come to these joints that are already coming apart. So we put that up there. Man, there we go. Got that back on. And this looks like it's supposed to go in here. Yep. Gonna have to pause and find that. Be right back. Alright, found it once again. And after careful review of the instructions, it's actually supposed to go on this side. So we'll fit that. The big part's supposed to go in that little cavity there. And then it's supposed to click on down below. So we'll stick that in there. There we go. And it said that that'll go back there and click. Not as convincing as I'd like it to be. Did I have the right orientation? Yeah, that's the right orientation. I just don't see how it's supposed to click. So, unless it's like, yeah. Now, I'll get the other side on, and we'll be right back. Okay, got them both in, and I still really don't see how that's supposed to help. I mean, you've got the natural points where it's supposed to attach in with this hole and that peg there, and I don't see how that extra little piece helped. I just trying to think of it, and just didn't come to me. It kind of limits how much this can come in, and then of course this side looks like it's out of alignment, but it's in the hole, so yeah. I don't know. Those two pieces just, I'm not really convinced they did anything for us. So, put the head back down there, put this back up. Yeah. Sometimes the stuff is a hit, sometimes it's a miss. And those, I'm, like I said, not convinced that those really did anything for us. So, next up are these little guys, and it looks like these come out of the legs. So we got to take apart the whole crotchal area. So we'll be back with that. All right, now that we got a topless sludge, you look at the front of the crotch here, and you got these two little gray pieces here. I already dug one out, as a preview to see how it's done. And see, and the little black pieces go inside this little cavity here. So, get one of those. Stick that in there. Don't think the orientation really matters, but there we go. Goes inside there. Pick that up so you can kind of see. See if I can get to focus on that. See what's going on there. Yeah, so that fills that cavity there. There's two of them in here. So take the second one out. Put a block in. All right, and then just place those back where they came from. Get it to go in straight. The thing about having fat fingers is that you got to use a lot of tweezers. All right, get those back in there. Yep, still not straight. There you go. All right, there's that. All right, next stage is take these thighs apart. So that's what we'll do next. We'll be right back. All right, now that we got the thighs opened up here, you can see we've got the same cavity situation here. So we're just going to take our blocks and stuff them in there. Kind of rotate them around. Would it be easier if I took this off and took that out? Probably, but this is how I'm going to do it. Get that one on. Get that one on. And then the next step is to put this all back together. And just as a side note, when you're doing stuff like this, having a magnetic pad like this is awesome. So you can kind of put the screws in the orientation they came out and make sure you return the same screw back in the hold and you don't lose your screws this way. So, pro tip, get a magnetic pad. All right, let's get this guy back together. Here we are back together again. And what all that work did was give us clacky joints. So that's pretty cool. And so he poses a lot better now. So yeah, pretty cool. Give him a little bit more staying power because being the first out, his joints weren't the best. So that, I think, makes the kit worth it, if nothing else. I mean, I kind of think the blast effects did. But fixing his leg joints to where they're not as loose as they used to be, I think is a huge boon to this kit. So let's go ahead and put them into Bronto mode and check out the last little bit of the kit. And here we got them in Dino mode. So the last thing is the googly eyes. The instructions say you got to click these on. Then you can have him splash down for that 1/2 second of footage in the animated movie. So yeah. And to take these off, you're supposed to slide them forward all the way to the nose before it pops off. The eyeballs do come out, so be careful of that. And then we can put his laser breath in for the full effect there. Move off out of the way. And there's full effect for Sludge. And I'm happy we got Sludge some extra love in here and made his joints better. So all around, despite the things on the wings that I don't think really did anything for him, I think it's still a decent kit. So let's go to the next kit. Oh yeah, forgot to mention the shield bit. So you take this shield, turn that around backwards, flip them over. You can take the gun and stow that in there. This slot goes on this tab here. And click it in. And then that closes out that gaping maw that we had before. So that's pretty neat. And then you can take the swords, stick them on the 5mm pegs on the sides. Good. And put on his googly eyes. And there we go. There's everything with the kit. The only thing we had was 2 extra pads, so if you lose 2 of the rubber pads for the ratchets, you've got replacements. So not bad at all. Overall, still love this. Let's go to the next one. And finally, we're looking at the DK-50 upgrade kit for Snarl. So it looks pretty cool. We got Snarl with the blast effects that come with the kit on there. Same picture there. Same picture there. Legal. Contents of the package. Name of the kit. So pretty standard stuff. We'll go ahead and crack this open and look at the contents. Alright, here we got the kit open here. First up, we got guns. So we got double guns for him since Hasbro didn't give us guns. So that's cool. And we got a sword, which is really cool because my sword was already starting to warp. So we get a hard plastic sword. We get flame effects. Pop these guys out here. And these can go on the sword. To find that right, gotta put the right direction. One side goes on really easy. The other side likes to fight me a bit, but eventually you can jam them both on there and have a fiery sword. Yeah, it's pretty neat. It's something you can do. Comes with this little bit here, which the sword has a flip out 5mm peg to attach to the back. So we flip this over to the other side and we just kind of push this onto here. And then you can stick the fire effects on the 3mm holes and be able to store that on his back. So put that back there so you can have storage for all your stuff. So that's pretty neat. This little piece is also used so that you can use the fire effects in the mouth in Dino mode, and we'll show that when we get to the Dino mode portion. Alright, next up we get... Now we'll just knock the rest of this stuff out. Alright, these are gap fillers that we're going to do last. And then you got new better fists. Actually, Actually, these are fists where if you want to go from just straight up handling the sword, straight up handling sword. You can swap out the fists and make it where you can hold the sword out forward. So that's pretty neat. You got that option. There's actually no mechanical movement on this. You actually got to swap out the fists like this is one of the regular Marvel Legends figures. So you get fist swapping with this. Pretty neat. These two things, I'm going to have to figure out what those are for. Let us consult. All right, as far as I can tell, oh, I see. These are fillers. So take there, put that in there for a filler. Put that in there for a filler, and so the feet get filled in. So that's pretty cool. All right, now we get to do some surgery on this. So I'm gonna get these contraptions installed, and then we'll talk about them. All right, we got the first one in here, and you can see that it fills in this area here. Basically install these. You put this out, take this end here, and stick it into there. I kind of move that out of the way. So you see where you just press that in. The other side was a lot stiffer than that one was. That one went in pretty well. So we'll flip that back around to where it was. Clean that around. Fiddle with that a little bit. And it goes ahead and settles in. So that is nice and closed out. So close out, and that pretty much takes care of all the hollowness in him. So that is really neat. So we get his better sword here. Give him one of his guns. So yeah, I am pretty happy with this so far. And that's around here. And then these guns do have 3mm port and a hole, so you can either store it, hang it off the post here, or you can stick it in the hole here. So that was pretty neat. That was mighty considerate of them. So pretty neat. So you can store everything on the back and leave them empty-handed. So that's pretty cool. So all right, let's go to dyno mode and check out the last bits. All right, here we got Snarl in dyno mode, and you can see how our closeouts work. So the feet closeouts and this closeout here takes care of the gaps in dyno mode, so that cleans him up a lot. As far as the fire effects, because his head was split for transformation, he did not get a proper 3mm peg in there. So you've got these two holes in his mouth there. And then these tabs will go in those slots. So let's close that up a bit, get those back aligned. And then you stick that in there. So we'll do that. Press that in. And it kind of goes without saying that you've got to take that out before you transform. And it doesn't want to stay in there very well. Come on. Yeah, and that's as far as you can shut the mouth too. So the mouth is permanently open at that point. So we got to put these on here. And that doesn't work. It kind of needs to go up here, or at least close more. But the way they're designed, they can't really do that. Yeah. I'm going to have to call that a fail for the product there. Because yeah, that's about it. So you kind of got to cheat it in there. All right, we're calling that a fail. It was a nice thought. And could have got there, but it just doesn't stand up when you sit them down. So let's go ahead and wrap this up. And that covers our Dinobot kits. So everybody's got their upgrades. Everybody's got their gaps filled. These things still don't want to stay closed very well on Grimlock, but at least it's covered. Only person that didn't get a kit was Swoop. So to me, that means he was functionally perfect from to begin with. So yeah, actually, I think Swoop was pretty much the best. The last out was the best. So yeah. And I did get Snarl's fire to work. It just kind of looks like it's shooting out of his bottom lip. But yeah, that's about it. So the kit's worth it. I think for the gap filling and just for the ratchet joints on him and the gap closures, and of course all of our blast effects, I'm going to say they're worth it. So go ahead and go to somewhere like Big Bad Toy Store and pick them up. So thank you for joining us on the AB Scale Project. Please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, ring that bell, and I'll see y'all later.